All right. Looks like we're good to go. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Alicia Taplin. I'm a part of the chapter relations team, and this is our yearly chapter education committee meeting. So, just a place to bounce off ideas and hear how things have worked for you all the last year. So, for those who I don't know, it's nice to meet you. And for those that I do know, nice to see you again. If you could, I would appreciate if you're able to, if you're driving, don't worry about it. Updating your name with your chapter location. Well, just your chapter name, that would be great, just so we can kind of get a feel for who's coming from where for those people that we may not be meeting, well, maybe meeting for the first time. So that's always helpful. Also, I do want to acknowledge some of our education team that I do see on. I see Jake is here. Michelle Jerome, thank you for joining us. Alden. My scream, I just have a couple, but if I missed you, I do care about you, but I see that you all are joining. Michelle, did you want to address anyone before or anything before we started off? Are we good to kick it off?
No, you're good to kick off. I just want to say hi to everybody. It's great to be here.
All right. So the way this will go, I have a couple of questions to throw out there for us to discuss, but this is an open platform and also it's a safe space for you to kind of bounce around ideas, but also to, if there's something that may be troubling you or challenges that you've had over the year, please feel free to discuss those as well. And perhaps we can brainstorm and help one another. I do want to acknowledge the fact that this will be recorded, but if any time you do not wish for us to record it, please just make sure we know that and we can stop it. That's not a problem. Also, if you do want to chime in on the discussion, feel free to come off mute or to use the wave hand feature that Zoom offers down there in the reaction, and I'll keep an eye on that. Or my colleagues, Emily, Lawrence, and Kelly, they will be able to monitor chat for me as well. So without further ado, I'll kick it off with the first question. So, what education topics have been most popular with your members this last year?
Hi, I'm
I see Stephanie.
Stephanie. I'm from the Central Indiana chapter. I am actually very new in my position, so I don't really have a lot of feedback on this, but I'm excited to kind of revamp the education here over here in Indiana. We just got done last week. We did a topic on hoarding, which was well received. But we are starting to create lists and surveys of what people want to learn about. So we do have one coming up in the summer that I know, just talking with other managers, they seem really excited and want to attend, is about developer turnover. So we plan to have somebody that manages developer properties, an attorney to help with the process of turnover, and then a manager with experience once it's turned over from the developer to the homeowners, and how to get them set up and in a direction where they're a well-oiled machine.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Stephanie. Anyone else, would you like to chime in and kind of throw anything out there that's worked for you all over the last year or any popular trends?
Sure.
Yeah,
My name is Heather Kunkel. I'm the one of the chairs on our Minnesota chapter. We have a lot of exciting stuff happening with our legislation this year. So we have added a lot of extra programs relative to that. They're changing some state statutes that are going to be fairly detrimental to our industry. So we're battling the awareness of that, but we tend to get a lot of turnout on our insurance programs in our law seminars, and those nuance the programs that are catered to singular topics, team with like panels and different perspectives. So like if we bring a panel of maybe an attorney and an insurance agent and then a manager and bring all of those perspectives together, we seem to get a really good turnout.
Nice. Someone else was coming off mute before Heather started as well. I wasn't able to see it, but I heard you. Did you want to chime in, Scott?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm Scott with the Washington State chapter, quite a large chapter up here. We've had quite a lot of exciting things happen up here, and one of ours is a legislative change that went through last year. For decades, the state has run under 4 different statutes for their associations depending on the type. And as of January 2028, all associations will go to a brand new statute. So there's a lot of changes coming everyone's way with amendment to governing documents for all the associations. So we've been starting over the next year, the 10,000 foot level on those changes, and starting then to drill down as we get closer. We've had attendance in our homeowner webinars starting at about 150 homeowners and topping at 250 because of that interest there. So there's a lot of interest in these changes in the state.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Scott. So Washington State actually falls under my support for the region. And I know that last year for you all was the year of the homeowners. So I know that a lot of things were geared towards getting that homeowner engagement. So that's good to hear. Would anyone else
Yeah,
like to share? Diane?
yeah, I'm from Southern California, the Los Angeles area, specifically from the Greater Los Angeles chapter. What we are finding is that the hot topics are obviously the right to vote without having to do paper ballots. The new voting laws were finally accepted in the state of California, so large associations can go online and vote and save a tremendous amount of money. Obviously, with the fires in the area, that's a very hot topic tied in with insurance and how it's going to affect all of us, even those of us who are not in the fire area. And kind of in line with that, we just did a program at our monthly luncheon on problems with houses falling down because of the ground underneath them. Planned communities from 40, 50 years ago, over the years now, are finding that the ground underneath was not properly prepared, and the homes are starting to have to be put up on different kinds of stilts and stuff. Suddenly your roadways are all buckling. So that's become a hot topic in California, especially since that is basically not covered by most insurances. Generally speaking, unfortunately, we don't get enough homeowners involved except on our quarterly homeowner webinars. We get about 100 people on those, but convincing homeowners to come to some of our other events is unfortunately very limited. But we do offer them an opportunity to take the law review course, to take the how to be a good board member course. Besides the one that National offers, we offer one locally that is very specific to California. California has a lot of laws that do not affect the rest of the country. We have the Davis-Sterling Act, which pretty much tells us what we can and can't do. We do a lot of work with our fundraising for the people who represent us up in Sacramento and represent us in Washington. And I think there has to be more education coming out of CAI National, explaining to homeowners, business partners, management companies, how important it is to support, especially your local efforts, to get the proper laws in your state. We don't donate to any political parties. It's all done one-on-one, no financing, just one-on-one meeting with these people and trying to convince them that it's important that new laws do actually represent the needs of the homeowners.
Diane, you bring up a really good point. And I think that's partly also communicating with the homeowners in general and getting in front of them. So this past week on Tuesday, we also had our membership chair call, and it was a lot of focus too around how do we communicate with potential homeowners. Yes, we've got our member homeowners, but how do we also communicate outside of that realm? And there was a lot of discussion around working with business partners who are members and also managers who are members, and making sure that the chapter is providing resources that business partners and managers can also provide to their communities about what the chapter is doing, whether it's around education efforts that are going on, it's around advocacy efforts. So making sure that you're using the membership to also reach those people who aren't in your normal contact list, right? And a lot of the times you'll work with that with your executive directors and your staff to get those messages developed and sent out. But sometimes it's just going that little extra step to make sure that, hey, here's this piece, go show it, share it with your clients, or share it on your social media network, share it with your people, and here's a way that it's very easy for you to do that. Scott, I see you came off mute too.
Yeah, I did, and just a couple of things, and I want to kind of dovetail off of something you mentioned, Kelly, that we do as a chapter here in the state. And you know, you guys in CAI know how large we are, and there's a reason. It's the support that we give, and anything that I can add as far as that to adding membership, I feel is important. And one thing that we do, and I'm actually participating in next week, is our chapter reaches out to homeowner associations, whether they're members or not, and they find them oftentimes through title companies. And we put on a free board member 101 in teaching board members how to become a board member, how to be effective, how to serve their community. But as important, the services and support the chapter can give to those homeowners. We do that. I don't know if this is the right forum, but I'm wondering if I can throw an ask out there. As one of the larger chapters, we find it sometimes a barrier with CAI to have accredited or CAI approved speakers in our area. And oftentimes the requirements and the cost to have one come in is a pretty large hurdle for us. And I'm wondering what the process is to have some local folks qualify as CAI speakers, and what that may look like.
Sure. If I can just touch on a couple of things, I do want to let you guys know that National is working on new homeowner board member education that will be online courses and would be free to any homeowner. And that is really being pushed through to meet a lot of new laws that will require homeowner board member education and be a pipeline of getting those into our database. So we hope to have that live this summer on that piece. Scott, question on what you mean by, like, are you talking about CAI faculty? I wasn't aware that National had to approve CAI speakers at the chapter level.
Yeah, they actually do. Last year at our annual conference, we put on a M100 class, and we had to have a CAI speaker.
Yes, for PMDP courses, it must be a member of CAI faculty who has met all the criteria to be a faculty member and has been through all the proper trainings to execute those courses. So that does have to, that we cannot make exceptions on. I thought you were talking about your homeowner education courses that you are bringing in.
No, but linked to that, the requirements for that class, for that speaker at our state level, for example, in that last conference, those requirements were different than the requirements that same speaker, same class had at nationals for CAI. And I'm wondering why that would be. There are contractual requirements.
Oh, so we can get into the PMDP courses separately. We have a whole webinar on that and the requirements for chapters to hold those courses. It's actually a whole submission process to hold those courses. And so,
understood.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is the submission and approval on the state level to have a speaker come in, and the contractual requirements in terms of thresholds to meet,
correct,
is different than that same class that National holds. And they
it's
the
annual conference. We already have the meeting space and that piece covered within our contract. So there's less expenses. So the threshold level is lower. That's why.
Okay.
So,
It-
but
it-
like, but I don't
it-
want to hijack this call with
Yeah,
CAPT
yeah,
contract specific. So Scott, we can take this offline.
sure.
One other update I do want to give you guys, Business Partners Essentials, heard the CEDs last year of the need, the piece. We have gone through and analyzed that course, identified lots of changes that need to be made. We are in the process of starting to revise that course. We will get that fully revised. We're hoping to launch it in the fall as both an online course and have new materials for speakers for the chapters to go back to offering it in person as they would like to.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. All right. If nothing else, oh, Roxanne, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, two things. Back to, you were saying the online board leader training, that's new, a new one's gonna come out, you're saying this summer?
Mm-hmm.
We were planning on hosting something in October. Should we wait till we get something new or still go with the old?
For the homeowner education, that's up to you. We can share what we're pulling together. What we're pulling together that is going to address a lot of the legislation that's out there right now.
Okay,
Is based on the Community Association Living publication. We're taking that publication, creating the learning objectives by chapter, and turning that into a course that they can take. And then at the end, we probably will give them the publication because it's already out there to just
Okay.
weave that in. So, you know, we are happy to share some slide decks and pieces to make that go hand in hand and use that piece
good.
on
Good.
that side. And then for the Business Partners Essentials, for that course, we will be giving you like new slide deck, new facilitator guide, those pieces.
That's great. I was just gonna share what we did this year. So we did, our year's theme was back to the basics. So, what we did with our education pieces, our very first one, we could not believe it, outdid our one that's usually the most attended. Our usually most attended is our free legal advice. And we have 4 attorneys that, are great attorneys that are CAI members come and speak. That's usually been our biggest, but this year, the first one we had of the year was, it was just titled Limited Common versus Common. And we had more, double what we would have had for the attorneys come and want to talk about that. So that shocked us, but that was back to the basics. What's the difference? And we went into how to manage those things. And we talked about, you know, for HOAs, the open spaces. So that was very, very well attended. Then our next one coming up is with the attorneys. The next one after that, we're going to do, uh, financial basics. So we're gonna have somebody for the reserve studies, we're gonna have a CPA come and a management company. So they'll be talking about the financial piece. And then we're gonna actually have a speaker from CAI come in and just talk about membership, how important that is. So we're really excited, you know, about doing that. So, and then the last one, to promo our board leader training, we're gonna have a whole education piece on, you know, how to be a good board member, board conflicts, and then we're going to advertise our upcoming board leader training.
That's super exciting, Roxanne. And one thing that you mentioned that I just want to make sure everyone knows about too on the call, as you guys are the chairs for your education team. If you're ever looking for a speaker from headquarters to come over, or our board of trustees, and if it's on a certain topic, we do have ways to send those speakers out to you to talk to your chapters about different topics. So if you have any questions about that, I'll drop my email into the chat as well. I'm the person who manages that for our headquarters team. But again, anything from advocacy efforts with our government and public affairs team to, again, our board of trustees. I know Melissa, who's our current president, she's been out to a couple of your chapters recently. And with that, we cover the travel costs. We ask that, you know, you cover any meal expenses if it's, you know, at a conference and lunch is involved, that of course that speaker can sit at lunch with you all and everything too. But so if you're ever looking for that level of speaker, we do have those available to you to also tap into.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Roxanne. Before we move on, anyone else had anything to add to that subject?
We just came off of our CA day last
We did.
weekend, and we did a couple of outside of the box classes. One was on burnout, where we actually had someone that was a licensed counselor in there teaching with the manager, and they even did a meditation or something, but it was very well received. The other class that we did was AI, leveraging AI, in relation to what we all have to do every day. And those two classes were very well attended and very well received. So I'm coming off of that thinking, ready to go back to our next, committee meeting and say that we really need to explore new topics, different topics. We've done, there's those basics that we all do every year to because we always have new board members coming on. So the board 101s and the financial training. But I think going forward, it's going to be really important to kind of explore some of these out of the box topics, with the way the world is changing. And, we've seen that from this last weekend that those two classes were very, very popular.
Todd, I see your hand is up as well.
Yeah, in DC, we just had our expo at the beginning of the month, and one of the new courses that was taught and was on deconversion. It was principally economics and the intersection of legal. As Jake knows, we're looking at this at the foundation and the think tank as well, but it was serving as a kind of a primer for what's to come when these buildings hit what is their economic useful life in a world of deferred maintenance. So that was a hot topic along with fair housing stuff.
Very nice. Uh, Jill, you made me think about something. You mentioned doing a session on AI, so I wanted to ask, have any of you all noticed any impact from AI, people using ChatGPT instead of going to the chapter for resources or publications or just education?
I
Stephanie?
wouldn't say that we're using it in place of going to the chapter. It's a time saver.
Yeah. Stephanie, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just kind of had a general question about education with being new. More of like what do you find is the best time date to get the best attendance to your events?
I think that might vary from chapters. Anyone want to throw out there their best practices for figuring that out?
I will
Go
I'm
ahead.
close to you, Stephanie, because we're here in Louisville. So our luncheons are 11 to 1 once a month or once every other month on a Thursday. Always very well attended. In our showcase, we found out the best time to do is 4 to 7. That way we could get a kind of best of both worlds, whether it's the professionals or the homeowner leaders, can attend one end of that.
What's a showcase?
A business showcase.
It's like a
So like
trade show.
Trade
It's
show,
like,
okay.
yeah.
Do you do that? So you do that in the evening during the week?
We do that during the evening, during the week in the month of September.
Yeah, I think up here in Washington, of course, it depends on the event itself. So I'll just speak to our two large events. We have CA Day, which is in October, and we hold that on a Saturday. Homeowners, business partners, as well as managers, and we'll get about 700-800 folks to that. We have our annual conference, which is a 2-day event. We hold that in April, and that's coming up at the end of next month on a Thursday and a Friday. Again, all day each of those days. For managers, homeowners, and business partners as well. And we've already got about 450 people attending that, with Saturday being the board leader development class for all that day on Saturday. So it actually turns into a 3-day event. Homeowner webinars usually are held late afternoon during the week.
So Stephanie, I will kind of chime in. We have done some surveying of the chapters and asked the specific questions. So we do have some based on region, based on chapter size, the type of event, of when all of that's happening. So if you are looking to evaluate that, definitely we can provide that information to you. Again, just shoot me an email if you want that, and I can get that over to you. The other thing that I also recommend doing is asking that question to your members and not just at an education event. Because if you're asking it just at the education event, you're asking the people who that time works for and not the people who it doesn't, right? And so you want to make sure, now, again, sometimes it's hard to get feedback from people. We all know that. So if there's any way to incentivize that, I've seen some chapters be successful of even just a $20 Amazon gift card to a winner that will be drawn if you take this very quick 1-minute survey of 3 questions or something very simple. I think the other thing, go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say the other thing is really taking a look at, are you trying to get your whole membership together at one time? Because sometimes that can be very difficult. We know some of our chapters, they might be very heavy in retired homeowners and they want to see things at 10 o'clock for an early lunch. And so they're very successful in an earlier lunch on a Tuesday, where we see others who it's working homeowners. And so they're not going to take time off from their normal day-to-day job to come to an education. They might be having families and raising families. So it's harder to get them to the education events. And so they're doing more resources of either virtual or online, watching recordings on their own time. So really taking a look to it at that membership base and saying, what are we trying to provide that education to? And it's okay if it can't fit everybody, but who's our core people that we want to actually be here? And how do we make sure that it's fitting their schedules? So that's just one thing to think about when you're looking at your population. It might not work for everyone, and that's okay, but how do you kind of make sure that they have access to the resources that they do need from the chapter?
One thing we did implement recently is the surveys. And I had mentioned not just at the events, but also, via email, email blasts, and have our director do that. And our incentives is if you fill out the survey, then you get a free luncheon out of the deal. So that's what we did with ours. So continuing that education. And then we looked at starting to record the luncheons and the events, and then offering it at a discounted rate, or possibly just if you want to be involved live, since you're not having lunch provided, again, a discounted rate to attend that. But that's all brand new, so I'm not sure, we don't know how it's working with us yet.
Yeah, I will say I don't see, is anyone from Minnesota on here? Heather, you're on from Minnesota. I know you used to do that previously, and I think you stopped recording the in-person, or is that correct? Yeah,
Yep,
because
yep.
you guys
We've
did
got
that.
Matt here too. Matt's with us as well in the Minnesota chapter. We used to record the in-person ones, and it just kind of became costly, quite frankly. It's very costly, and the room is so large and getting all of that in. But what we have found is dividing our members, our programs. We do quarterly homeowner leader programs just directed to homeowner leaders. And then we do our managers every month. And then we do our trade show in the spring, or we do one in the winter, and then we do one in the fall. And that's tended to get a lot better turnout. And then if we've got like something where we know it's going to be a really hot topic, we'll do a webinar so we can record it and then push it out that way. And that was just kind of based off feedback and trying to capture those winter ones, because of course you got the battle. So we're Minnesota, so we get the fun weather, and the challenges that we were getting is in the winter, our elderly homeowners or even elderly managers, nobody wanted to leave the house. So we started doing those virtually, and then we do our spring and summer. Well, we take summer off, but our spring and fall ones, we do those in person, and that really helped these last couple of years to get better turnout. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
I think so, yeah. And like you said too, with the recordings, the audio wouldn't always get picked up well. So like if somebody in the crowd had asked a question, you wouldn't necessarily be able to hear what the question was that the answer was given to on the recording. So there was some kind of tech difficulties, I think, that also led to stopping that approach.
Thank you.
I feel like those are good things to know, especially when you're trying to plan how you're going to execute your events, your education events. So with that, I want to ask since we were talking about getting feedback on best times, how are you using feedback in other ways to shape your future programming?
I'll jump in. I'm sure oh, go ahead, Donna, you go first. I've talked a lot.
I was just gonna say, I'm with the DC chapter, and co-chair of the education committee. This is for my third or fourth year, I forget. And I was co-chair of a conference and expo committee, prior to that for a number of years. But one thing that we do is, we actually, in order to get your CEUs credits, you have to submit the survey on the program. And that, I think, has helped us get more of more feedback. And then on that, one of the questions on all of our feedback forms, our submission forms, is what topics would you like to hear about? Give us some ideas for topics, because that's one thing you can't think of all the topics people want to learn about. And if somebody's thinking about it, two other people are. So that's, we get that feedback from there, and we have open submissions now for presentations. We do rolling submissions so that we have year-round getting those to be able to peg them in. We have two major project education sessions. We have a conference and expo committee, which Todd said we just had at the beginning of the month. And then in the fall, we do Education Palooza. Education Palooza is during the day, during the week, because it's geared towards managers. But our conference and expo is a Friday, Saturday, because it is geared towards hoping to get some board member attendance and homeowner attendance.
One of the other
That's
things that
great.
we do in DC for boosting attendance is serve alcohol.
And one thing that you mentioned, Donna, that sometimes I know people share with me, they struggle to get a topic from people when it's an open-ended question. So if you are struggling with that field, sometimes I found if it's a checkbox of general like advocacy or burnout, kind of put some general topics listed with the comment box, and people have been successful of like, oh yeah, that is a topic that I want to hear about. And they'll mark those check boxes and then fill in a comment if something is outlying or outside of those areas. So something to think about too, if people aren't filling out that box, is to kind of help guide them to say, hey, are any of these those topics that you're thinking about? And that helps get their mind moving in that direction.
Heather, I think you have something else you want to add?
Yeah, you guys, similar to the DC chapter, we do our surveys, and we used to do them in person, leave them on the table, and that really didn't get a lot from the manager side. It works really well with the homeowners. On our homeowner leader programs, we leave it at their table, and then as they're walking out, they get the one-on-one time with whoever is standing up there, and then they hand us their surveys. And we always leave a little space of what are you most confused on, or what would you benefit from? So we do, and then we implement them. That's the biggest piece, is if you ask for the feedback, make sure you're implementing it, because what we were seeing is, or what we were hearing is that, well, we've asked for this, it's never come up. And so just making sure that as a committee, we're looking at those, jotting them down, keeping a long list of which ones should we pick and pull in, and which ones can we tie into. And then for our managers, we push out those surveys. And we don't get as many responses as we would love to. So I'm really interested in taking that back, Matt, to see if we can require them to fill out a survey to get their CEs. That's a very creative way that's intriguing. But really it is just the follow through of demonstrating that we are hearing them, and we're here to support them. And then we get more and more from that direction.
And Heather, you bring up a really good point. You can't always, I'm sorry, Emily, I cut you off. We're both wanting to probably say that, yeah. There's not enough time sometimes to provide all the education that we really want to get out there. And so thinking about what are the other avenues that you can get that education out there still. So make sure that if you're getting that feedback, you're also sharing it with your communications, or if you're magazine, your newsletter groups, because they can write articles with that. So that's another way that we can educate our members in these topics that they have the need for. And so making sure you're having that response or that connection to your other committees, especially the larger chapters. Sometimes like, excuse me, the weather here is not fun. You find yourself in silos. And so just making sure you're connecting with each other.
What I was going to say is, Heather, you made me think of something, is that our members need to know we're listening to them. And so, I've been involved with organizations where they ask my opinion and whatever, and I give it. And of course, maybe it wasn't a great opinion, but I never see any of those ideas implemented. And so I think it's also important that we're going to ask for input about what they're looking for, that they see that we're going to do something with it. So make sure that if you are surveying, that you're looking at the surveys and you're taking into account what they're asking for. Don't just survey to survey, I guess is my point.
Because then that leads to survey fatigue. And after a while, they'll probably stop engaging if they see that nothing has been considered from the survey. So, and obviously you can't take everything into consideration at one time, but I think that's a good point, Emily. I've taken surveys for other organizations and things, and I feel like, oh, what are we surveying for? And survey fatigue is a real thing. So after a while, you have to make sure that they're not just constantly being asked for information and input and nothing's being done or used for it. So I think that's a good point to make.
Yeah, we do maintain a list of topic suggestions and share it amongst the other committees that do any touch on any kind of education. And then that list is also published for people to know, if they're interested in doing presentations, what topics we're looking for. So that we also get presenters that way as well.
It's a nice tactic, making it work multiple ways. Or anyone else have anything that they would like to share in regards to using feedback to shape future programming, or even things that you're considering to shape your future programming? All right. Well, my next question, innovations. So anything cool and exciting, has there been anything cool, exciting, innovating that you have tried over this last year or that you're looking to hopefully try with this new year in terms of your education and also to enhance the learning experience overall? Oh, come on. I know y'all have got some good ideas. They have to be out there, out the box. I know they're just waiting to be burst open.
I can think of one item, but it's not like super innovative, but to get out of the, it's always 11:30 to 1:30 most of the times for our lunch and learns here. So we did some like breakfast or brunch and learns where we'd start them earlier. Seems like we got almost a different group of people that wanted to attend those than the same ones that always come to the 11:30 hours. So that was kind of one thing we tried on a few events last year, and I think we're planning on doing a few more in 2025.
That's definitely innovative. You touched a group that you normally would not touch. So I would say that works. That's innovation.
Yeah, and on that same note, so we did that for the managers and homeowner leaders, or so like all of our members, whoever will come. But then for our homeowner leaders, we found that Friday mornings, right away in the morning, tends to be a great time for them. And we get really good. I think the lowest turnout we've had is like 30 to 40 homeowners in a room. And when we first launched our homeowners, we were maybe 10 to 15. And then we also got our board to sponsor those a little bit more. So they're right now they're free to those homeowner leaders. And we've noticed that free to the homeowner leaders is a lot easier. So we've asked our sponsors, asked our vendors to start sharing in that expense, and bringing in the vendors and doing those like little, not, I don't want to say mini trade show because it's not really, it's like 3 vendors, but bringing a couple of vendors in and having them have a little table with a couple handouts. So it's kind of just a little bit of a rotation of, here's some experts for the season, may be related to the topic, may not be. So we're excited to see how that turns out this year, because we used to have sponsors and vendors at all of our programs before COVID, and we're bringing those back. So we'll see how that goes for both our manager side, but really our homeowner, because that's what we've really been trying to focus on, is we need to educate our homeowner leaders, and because that's what's driving a lot of our legislation changes. and some of them are really scary. I know I said that already, but it's like fresh on my mind. And so we're just trying to really push out that education in all avenues.
Has anyone done anything outside of the typical panel or just solo speaker type of session? Anything interactive? or more hands-on?
I have one. Sorry, I can't get on camera, but this is Jamie from the Illinois chapter. Our Manager Education and Development Committee created an event, a monthly event called CAM Chat. And it's for the managers to get on and sort of they choose the topics. They talk about whatever makes them comfortable. Sometimes it leans subject matter like CE credits or plumbing, roofing, the weather, snow removal contracts, but sometimes it goes to professional topics like how to communicate salary expectations, why designations are important. But it's been really interesting to let them sort of come to a room. A manager always leads it. I don't lead it. The chapter is there and it's sort of sponsored by the chapter, but no business partners or homeowner clients are like able to be there. And it's just for managers. They can submit anonymous topics if they have questions. The kind of more experienced managers can provide advice to some of the newer ones. Some of the on-site managers feel like they're getting a bit of more sense of community because they're kind of marooned on their own island of their office. So I'm pretty proud of them for that. It's been working pretty well. Even if we only reach 10 to 20 people a month, those people are leaving every time saying they felt like it was really beneficial for them.
All right, thanks for sharing, Jamie. Anyone else have anything out the box or outside of your traditional speaker and panel or more hands-on they'd like to share? Or anything that you're considering and you'd like to brainstorm and kind of bounce off ideas of how could it be incorporated?
We've hosted high-rise events where we'd take a class through central boiler plant in a high-rise to get people to get hands-on experience. So for the kind of like the bowels of the building, so they didn't understand why they were comfortable and why they had heat and why they had air conditioning. But it was eye-opening for a lot of people to go through a well-maintained building or a not so well-maintained building.
That sounds very cool.
Alicia, I've heard this ties to education, but it has to do with the location that you're holding your education events at and making it worthwhile for people to come out and not, desire the on Zoom, because we've all been to something and like, well, I could probably sit on Zoom and do that, so really taking into account the location. So is anyone from the Georgia chapter on? I didn't see anyone. They do, they pick a unique location each month. I think they do them every other month luncheons, but they'll do one at the zoo. And so after they have the educational event, they'll do some kind of animal encounter. They'll do, I'm trying to think of a botanical garden they had a meeting space at. So they're really trying to get really creative with those meeting locations to draw people out as well.
That sounds like a really good thing for engagement. I would certainly turn up to go and learn at the zoo. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share? Heather, I see you come off mute.
I feel like I talk a lot. I apologize, but we're actually launching one this summer where we're doing like a mock inspection. We hold our meetings at the same location each month that we're in person, but in this case, it's in a hotel, and so we've gained some partnership at the hotel where we can leave some debris and such and whatnot around, and we're going to do mock inspections. So we'll see how that goes out. That was our change of ways. Kind of, we did brunch, as Matt mentioned, we did brunch last year, breakfast that way, and so now this year we're going to try showing them what a walkthrough should look like and what you should be looking for, the different building components, both inside and outside. So we'll see how well that turnout is. But that's kind of a different interactive approach that we took, because we were trying to find something, what can we do more interactive than just walking around with a mic and trying to interact, because sometimes shockingly they're shy. As for as talkative as they all are, they get shy at these programs.
That sounds like a great idea as well. Definitely keep us on update on how that goes and everything. I'd love to hear more about it. Anyone else? Obviously, you all have some great things happening. I just got to pull out, but some great ideas have gone through so far. So really cool to hear. All right. Well, if not, I do want to ask, so this is the time to kind of brag and kind of pat yourselves on the back. So what has been your most successful program this year, and why do you think it was just so successful? Oh, come on. I know we've got some braggers. This is the time to toot your own horn.
That one.
All right, go ahead for it, Jamie.
We have our conference and expo every year in February, and we always have a legal update, which is great. It's just like laws that came through last year, laws that might come up this year. It's usually pretty well attended, but kind of steady. This year we changed it up. We had a panel of really outgoing attorneys. And they played a game where they had to, so for a legislative fundraising donation, you can submit a very silly word for an attorney to have to use during their presentation. And it was super fun. We had over 600 people in the room. That's the biggest class we've ever hosted in person or virtually. So it was standing room only. No one left early. Everyone, they were laughing during a legal update, which I walked in the room and I was like, this is a legal update. Why are people laughing? But it was insanely well received and super fun. And it really kicked off a really wonderful conference for us. And I'm really proud of the committee that put that together.
All right, good job, Illinois. Anyone else? I see Kelly in the chat said it was a great fundraiser too. Anyone else have anything to share? What are you most proud of? I know some good things have taken shape over the last year.
I'll chime in, I guess. In Minnesota in
All right.
February, we had a law seminar and vendor expo, and the main panel of speakers on there was for insurance. I'm sure you guys are seeing this across the country, but insurance premiums are going up, coverages are going down, deductibles are going up. And boards, sometimes will feel like the management company is not doing everything in their power or something like that. So we had a person there from Insurance Warehouse, who's like a brokerage firm we use up here, somebody from an insurance consulting group, as well as somebody from a public adjuster, just to kind of hit all sides of the insurance topic, because it has been such a prominent topic of discussion up here. And for most communities, especially if there's building or clubhouse maintenance or something like that, insurance is probably one of their top 3, top 4 expenses every year. So it's always a very well attended event. And I just thought the presentation they put together with a summary of kind of how we ended up at this point in the industry and claims history over the last few years, I thought it was really beneficial, not only for the management people that were there, but for the homeowner leaders that attended as well, to kind of realize that this isn't just their HOA dealing with this issue. This is, hundreds or thousands, I should say, of HOAs across the country are all seeing similar issues with coverage being denied or premiums just going way up.
Thanks for sharing, Matt. Anyone else? Or anything that you're excited about for this upcoming year? All right. Well, since we are approaching the last 10 minutes of our time together, I want to ask, what support or resources would help your committee be more successful this year? So we're all good. Hey, Scott, I see you're off.
I am, Alicia. I think I alluded to it before, and I'm wondering if it can be put out at least to the committees. How is it that we can get somebody local to get approved as a CAI speaker, so we don't have to fly somebody in, truck them in, put them on a Greyhound, whatever it looks like. We have someone more local that can do that on behalf of the chapter.
Scott, just to clarify, approved for what specific content are you talking?
More of the CAI classes, like your M100s.
To teach our M series courses.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah, like as Michelle alluded to, we had to. I mean, we have a whole process to teach. You have to audit, you have to code teach, you have to. If you're a manager, you have to have your PKM. So we have like a whole bunch of requirements that you have to go through to get to this. So if you have some people in mind that you think would make great instructors, let us know. We have an application process they can apply for.
Is And Jake, is that readily available on the website? Is it easy to navigate to? Is how
Yeah.
intuitive is it to
Yeah,
find?
or just send us an email and we can point you in the right direction. No problem.
Okay.
I think we asked this last year, we're gonna ask it again. Your board leader certificate programs, the ones that we as chapters need to host once a year.
Yeah.
Do you all get really good turnout? Because that's the course that's $99. It's for the homeowner leaders, it's $99 and it's an investment, which it's a valuable investment. I think we all agree, we're all on the education committee, so we all know educating homeowners is very important. But how do you get folks to sign up? We've just not been able to fill it. We've offered it twice a year, and we just cannot get a room full of folks.
So, Heather, I've seen things happen a couple of different ways successfully for chapters, and it really depends on your chapter. Again, we've seen some that they get sponsors so that there is no cost to the homeowners to attend it. So that usually has been pretty successful for it. I've seen some that have broken it up into pieces, and some of our chapters just do that virtually. So every other month, they're doing a 1 or 2 hour webinar with it, and that way there's not a large cost. So you're not having a meeting space, you're not doing, food and beverage. And then at the end, they get a sponsor to sponsor oh, here's a Grubhub gift card or like a local gift card if you're a smaller area that you can be like, oh, go grab a coffee because you did such a great job with coming to all of these, right? So I think there's different ways potentially if the current one's not working out. The other thing is also make sure you're sharing that this is a national program. And so how that filters into it, and the board can bring back that certificate to show their homeowners in their community that they went through this course with a national organization with national content. And a lot of the times that's kind of that, oh, I forget that this is a bigger picture because we're so local focused. And communities like to hear that, share with the members, like put this in your newsletter to your community that your board members are taking their positions seriously and they're making sure that they're up to date on education, that they know what they're doing in their roles for the community that they're living in. So sometimes that helps, that little post marketing piece also helps get people there because they can turn that around and show their community, hey, I did something for the betterment of all of us.
What I can dovetail off Kelly and what we do is it's kind of about creating value. And most volunteers don't really want to pay to go to a class. That's probably the most boring thing in their life, besides sitting in a board meeting. But what we'll do is we'll include it as part of our annual conference or CAI, whatever event you may call it, and have it as its own day. But the value that we create is the piece that they're paying not only is for the class, but it allows them also a ticket into the event where they can go into the vendor tables and talk to vendors and get the swag and all the other pieces. So they're there, they're getting some value, getting some free stuff, the swag. And as a bonus, now they get a certificate and they can tell people they really know what they're doing when they're sitting in a board meeting being asked why they're doing something.
Yeah.
We need to dive into that. I like that idea because we do breakout sessions on our on those vendor shows. So that's a really neat idea to also bring homeowners to that program. So thank you for that input.
Yeah, I know Michigan does it's very similar, that in the morning of their trade show, they've got the board leader course. And then when that ends, that's when the trade show opens for that too. So they've been pretty successful with that model as well.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm gonna try it.
One other thing that we found works better, rather than doing it in person, do it on 2 Saturdays for half the day, rather than having somebody give up their whole Saturday. But the biggest problem is finances. If you're in a large community which is well funded and has great reserves, it's usually pretty easy to find a couple of $100 to do this. If you're in a small community that has not been properly, like the one I live in now, that had not been properly managed for many years, and their reserves are ridiculous. Didn't know all of the pitfalls until I moved in, because you don't have to disclose more than a year's worth of information, which really isn't enough to see the progression. But it's the kind of thing whereby I think, especially in today's economy, for homeowners, it comes down to the almighty buck. And getting, I find that locally, it's easier to get homeowners involved. Um, we've now made our luncheons free for homeowners. Our trade shows have always been free for homeowners. But I think when there are things on the national level that a lot of times I'd like to sign up for certain webinars or certain things. And then when I see what it's going to cost me, it's like the cost effectiveness goes out the window, when I'd rather be spending the dollars I have to spend locally. So if there's some way in terms of the stuff that Nationals is offering, if we can lower the cost to homeowners, because we don't have a slush fund from our bosses. We don't have the money available that vendors or the business partners or the management companies have.
Thank you for that feedback, Diane. And one thing I do want to mention, I'm not sure if all of you as education chairs know that we hold quarterly, they're called Community Conversations Live
Yes.
webinars, which are free to all of our members. There is a small cost if you're a non-member, but our homeowner communities really finds value in these, and we've seen a really good turnout from
Yes.
our homeowners on these. And one of the things that we do is we have presenters from all over the country kind of present on a hot topic. It's usually decided just a few weeks before the actual session to make sure that we're getting that hot topic. They speak for 45 minutes, and then we move everyone into breakout rooms based by region. But one of the things that we offer to the chapter is the ability to host a breakout room. And so if you have someone, even if it's not about that topic, you have the ability to be that facilitator of that room. So to ask the questions of the group, kind of like what Alicia and I are doing here with you guys today, and just making sure the conversation's moving along. We've also saw some chapters actually get a sponsor, or they offer that to their premier sponsors of, hey, would you like to be this person? Because you're going to be with our members in that region, and then potentially even, showcased around the country on this webinar. We don't record the breakout section of that. We do record the first 45 minutes and the last about 5 minutes of that. But so we do have that one coming up in April, the next one. So your chapter executive directors have been communicated with that if any of the chapters want to hold a breakout room, to let us know. But so think about that. We do have that up on our website. Emily dropped in the link there so you can see the future dates as well. But we're always open to having you participate in that way. And that's something, again, that we can offer to make sure that our homeowners are getting that free education as well. And
We
then I
also,
know we're coming up on, oh, go ahead, Joyce.
I was just going to say, we also have the Homeowner Leaders Council offers 4 free forums each year for homeowners. And basically we start on a topic, give them a little bit of information, but the goal is to hear from them.
Perfect. Thank you so
And
much
those are
for
free.
making sure. Thank you, Joyce. And one final thing before we all go today that I just want to mention is, as you can see in our backgrounds, we have hit the over 50,000 member mark, and we just want to thank you. A lot of this is what your committees are putting on and showing the value to our members at that local level, and showing how strong that we've come. we got this far really fast. It's taken a while, but it's also been fast, it feels like. So congratulations. Take a moment to celebrate. I know some of your chapters are seeing record numbers as well, and some really tremendous growth along those lines. And again, it's the value that the education is giving our members that are helping them continue and want to be a part of this organization. So thank you for all of the work that you guys are doing and all of the time that you're putting into this. If at any time you need anything, please let us know. We're here for you. We're an extension. I know we work a lot with your presidents and president-elects and your CEDs and chapter staff, but we are a resource for you as well. So if you ever need anything, please let us know.
And with that, we will end our call for today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.